Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Now, when you think of coding, you probably think of building apps, maybe websites, right? But what if I told you there's something way more profound going on? Today, we're going to dig into how this simple act of writing code can actually, literally, rewire your brain.
So, let's just jump right in with a pretty bold idea. What if the most valuable skill you get from coding has absolutely nothing to do with becoming a programmer? What if it's actually a tool for, well, everything else you do?
Okay, so how on earth does that even happen? Well, it all starts with understanding the skills that coding really builds. And I'm not talking about just memorizing some syntax. No, this is way bigger. It's about building a completely new framework for how you think. And according to the folks over at Codecademy, this is the absolute first, most important step, learning to think like a programmer. And what does that mean? It means you learn to look at a huge, messy, complicated problem and you just start breaking it down. You chop it up into smaller, bite-sized, manageable pieces. It's really the bedrock of structured thinking. And this right here is the reality of coding day in and day out. It's this constant cycle, this loop. You write something, you test it, you find the bug, and there's always a bug. You fix it, and you do it all over again. Techie Uni points out that this relentless process teaches you something huge. It forces you to stop seeing mistakes as failures. Instead, they just become part of the process. And you know what that builds? A whole lot of patience.
But it's not just about patience. Look at this list. Coding sharpens your critical thinking. It makes you a better communicator, especially with technical teams, and it even helps you collaborate better. These aren't just tech skills, they're life skills. They are absolutely crucial whether you're a biologist poring over data or an entrepreneur trying to get a business off the ground. And this quote from Zoe at Codecademy just nails it. She says, no matter what your interest is, there's always the opportunity to bring coding into it. See, she's framing coding not as some narrow job track, but as a super versatile tool you can apply to, well, anything you're passionate about. It's like a new lens for seeing the world, not just another language to learn.
Okay, so we've established what skills you built. But the big question is, how do they actually jump from the computer screen into your real everyday life? The secret sauce really is something called algorithmic thinking. Sounds fancy, but it's the core mindset you build when you're coding. All it really means is getting good at creating a super clear step-by-step roadmap to get from point A, the problem, to point B, the solution. And here's the cool part. As DNR-TV points out, you already do this. You just might not call it that. When you follow a recipe, you're breaking down a complex task into simple steps. When you plan a road trip, you're creating a logical sequence of events. All coding does is take that natural ability and put it on steroids. It makes you way more deliberate and efficient at it. Now, this whole idea that a skill from one part of your life can pop up and help in a totally different area, it kind of makes sense, right? But it's not just a gut feeling. There's actually some really cool science that explains exactly how this mental leap happens. It's a whole field of study called transfer of learning. And researchers like Deanne Perkins and Gabriel Solomon have spent a lot of time figuring out how learning something in one context, say coding, can directly boost your performance in a completely unrelated area. The easiest way to think about it is like a mental bridge. It's what lets you carry knowledge from one island of experience to another. So when you use that step-by-step logic you learn from coding to organize a huge, messy project at work, boom! That's what psychologists call positive transfer in action. And according to Perkins and Solomon, there are two ways this bridge gets built. There's the low road, which is pretty automatic and reflexive. You know, learning to drive a car makes it easier to drive a truck. Simple enough. But then there's the high road transfer, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is when you mindfully take a big abstract idea, like algorithmic thinking, and you deliberately apply it to a totally new situation. Think using chess strategy in a business negotiation. That's high road transfer, and that's where the real magic of coding happens. All right, so let's pull all these threads together. We've got the coder's mindset, we've got algorithmic thinking, and we've got the science of how these skills transfer. What does that all add up to?
Well, it means learning to code isn't really about the syntax of Python or JavaScript. Not at all. It's about something way, way deeper. It's like you're upgrading your own mental operating system. You're making your brain more logical, more structured, and just plain more efficient.
And check this out. When you combine that structured, step-by-step logic of algorithmic thinking with something called lateral thinking, which is basically the art of creative, out-of-the-box problem solving, you unlock something incredible. It's literally the best of both worlds. You get that rigorous, logical approach, and you pair it with wild, innovative creativity. So, at the end of the day, learning to code gives you this amazing toolkit.
And it's not just for getting a job in tech, it's for life. It literally rewires your brain to be a better, more effective problem-solving machine. Which leaves us with just one final question for you. If coding teaches you a whole new way to think, what problem are you going to solve first?